Hello. Hello, everybody. So today we have Chelsea Anthon, the most beautiful girl that we know, coming in today.
That. What about all your other beautiful girls? One of your beautiful Australian girls.
That's very true.
One of our Aussies.
One of our Aussie chicks. And Chelsea's from her own consulting company. And today we're going to talk to her about an initiative that she's doing for the hospitality industry, which is pretty amazing, called Amigos del Dia. But first of all, Chelsea, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what are you doing here?
Well, hello. Buenos dias. I'm originally from Australia. I'm half Spanish. So hence why I'm in Spain living my dream. And I've been in Spain for about 7 years and left Australia in 2009 with my husband to live my dream. And there was a fling. This is what's great about, recording live online. Like there's noises, there's WhatsApp pings, there's your dog, there's the doorbell. It's like it's
those little pings very annoying, I have to say.
Is that you or me?
Us.
Good. I think I've got all mine turned off. I just checked my phone.
I was like,
so I'm from a marketing background. So I worked in marketing for 20 years in Australia. I worked in television and radio marketing and then moved into digital. But what I do here in Spain is I combine my marketing skills with my passion and my love for Spain to work with Spanish brands to transform them into digital, but I focus on their international markets. So somehow I have attracted pretty much all wine and spirit brands.
I don't know how that happened. Like maybe just living in Jerez. So when you first came here, you actually moved to Jerez down south. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was living in Stockholm for 3 years. And we were going to move back to Australia, but we thought we'd just stop into this little village in Andalusia. It's actually called Vejer de la Frontera. It's 45 minutes from Jerez. And it's a whitewashed pueblo between Cádiz and Tarifa. And my Spanish teacher has a house there. This other guy who was my mentor has a house there. And they both just sort of went, why don't you come to this village? So we thought, that's, que casualidad, they say, like coincidence that two random people I knew were from this little village or there's 8,000 people there, that we went, well, let's just go there for a month. And 6 years later, we were still there. We sold up in Australia to live our dream and bought our house and started pretty quickly. I saw that there was these incredible products and producers and wines and industries, mainly food and food and wines is what attracted me because I love food and wine. But I saw that they didn't have a digital footprint. So I started to work with different wineries, namely Jerez, the Vinos de Jerez, sherry wines, and the council to show them.
My memory of Jerez came in, yes.
Yes, yeah. So, and I just was like, you've got the most incredible wines in the world. You used to be the #1 exported wines in the world. You were the first wines to travel to the Americas. What happened? Like, why do I look at sherry and think of it as grandma, as sweet, that I just get pissed on? And yes. I soon saw that they didn't have a digital footprint.
So a little bit about that, because it's really interesting from the point of view of sherry, because you've educated us about sherry. And I mean, it's true. If you think about sherry, we still have this sort of grandma idea, or the idea of grandma having a sherry, before dinner. Sherry has sherry's really a well-established wine. And
you've completely changed my view on sherry. Now I think of sherry as being something super elegant, and that I'm not elegant enough to really like that much.
Oh, but you like the Amontillado, which I was really surprised at, because
I want to have a palate. I want to be able to develop my palate enough that I can enjoy the really crisp ones.
The dry, you need to eat with it. So, I mean,
elegant flavor, and I just can't get my palate around it. And I
need to get you bring up some more Manzanilla and Rummers, like the older, like they're got a bit more, because they can be a bit sharp, the dry, the biologically aged sherries. Sherry is a very complex wine region. And I think this is why it's hard for people to grasp. And it's like champagne, something that I'd never really been exposed to coming from Australia, a new world country, which we do brilliantly in our marketing and our winemaking. but we haven't got this, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years of tradition and rules that they apply. So sherry can only be from 3 towns in southern Spain. The problem is the word sherry has affected the marketing big time, because once upon a time, the main wine was the dry wines that were sold. Then a really bad man came along, Ramasa, and he saw that sherry was, you know, very profitable. So he bought quite a few wineries, bodegas in Jerez, and he started mass exporting the sweet wine, which is a blend of Oloroso, which is actually a dry sherry, with a little bit of PX. And the PX is the Pedro Jimenez grape, which is sun-dried for 3 weeks. So much work goes into it. And that's why it's the black molasses, sort of really, really sweet wine. They just put a few drops of that in the Oloroso, and that is a cream sherry. And that is the Harvey's Bristol cream and the sweet sherries that this guy mass produced and sold to supermarkets as BOB, they're called, by his own brand. And this is what the sherry was that we saw in Australia. It's the sherry that we saw in America, in the Netherlands, Holland, and the UK. That what happens if you've got a sweet wine, high alcohol and cheap? It flooded the market and it changed people's perceptions that that was sherry. Mm-hmm. So people's palates changed and they only wanted to have this sweet one because it's a lot easier. You know, it's like when you first start drinking tea or coffee, you put sugar in it. Now, how many of us have sugar? Not as many. I know some people do. But it's, you know, your palate. Yeah, I know you do. That's why I do. So then what went wrong was places like Australia and also the States, still to this day, do it. The Dominación de Origen, it's called, like the appellation of the Sherry Wine Council, Vinos de Jerez, just like Champagne, Bordeaux, Parmesan, they've all got their DOs. Yeah. It's all that terroir and the microclimate of where the produce is from. And they put in a lot of rules and regulations to make sure that the producers stick to these traditional rules and regulations. Then what happens is, you know, Australia, McWilliams wine caught onto this sherry being like hugely popular, really easy to produce the wine and just stick some sugar and high alcohol and fortify it. That's when you got the flagons, you know, the 3-litre big bottles of sherry for $3. Yeah. And that's what grandma had in her cupboard and cooked with. That's what we stole as kids to get pissed on because it was in the cupboard. This is what fundamentally, you know, ruined the sherry wine industry. So then over the last...
But just basically just bastardized it, just cheapened it.
Yeah. Now this man went to jail, and he went to jail in a Superman suit as well. He went to court in a Superman suit because he actually broke all the rules of how sherry should be made. He was fortifying it and adding colorants and sugar. So it wasn't a real cream. So a Harvey's Bristol cream is actually a spectacular sweet sherry wine because it's been aged as an Oloroso for years, and then it's been aged as a Pedro Jimenez, and then they blend it and it's been aged again, and it's gorgeous. So sherry's just had a really hard time with its marketing. And only about 10 years ago in Australia, the Sherry Wine Council was able to pass the law in Australia that you can't call it sherry unless it's from Jerez, San Luca de Barrameda, or El Puerto de Santa Maria. Same as champagne. You know, remember, you can't call a sparkling wine champagne unless it's from Champagne in France. Yeah. And that law only got passed in Australia about 10 years ago, and I think 12 or 14 years ago in the UK. It still hasn't been passed in America. So you can still get fake sherry, which is really hard for them to market what the product is if you've got fake sherries.
Absolutely. It's really interesting from a branding point of view. You know, if you think about what damage can be done to an industry by just someone going in there and actually just ruining it by bad marketing. It's
really bad marketing. And so he went to jail for corruption and for doing exactly that. But he ruined the industry forever because when he filtrated the market, like especially the supermarkets with these cheap sherries, they stopped buying from the little guys. So those guys all relied on exportation because sherry became famous because a pirate, got his name, but an English pirate, it's there. He conquered Cardiff and he took back 3,000 barrels of Sir Francis Drake. he was a pirate, but the English won't call him a pirate. And we call him a pirate because he stole 3,000 barrels of sherry. Okay. And he took it back to the UK and presented it to his beloved queen.
Yeah.
And she then only served sherry in the court. And Shakespeare drank sherry. It was called sack then. And this is when the English went, we're onto something. So the English all came over to Jerez and started to work with the Jerezanos on marketing and producing these sherry wines. So this is why UK was massive. And a lot of the wineries today are like Gonzalez Bias. Like Gonzalez is Spanish, Bias is English, Williams and Humbert. So a lot of them are
history. It's got an amazing history.
And that's how I got romanticized, walking into these wineries and them telling me their stories, letting me drink from barrels that are 300 years old. And that's where I was like, I've got to help you get this out. Like, I've got to help, and digital is how you do that now. And as you guys know, you've completely, adapted your whole business to digital, which means you're way more, accessible, and you can get a message out a lot faster and connect with more people. But
we've got you to thank for that. So I really appreciate your expertise in this area. And so because of this passion, you've also seen since the COVID-19 situation that we're in, watching all of the people in hospitality, which is, what we've also been watching, our friends, our clients, people around us just really suffering, not being able to open their restaurants, having to actually pivot and change their businesses. You came up with this idea of Amigo del Dia, which is an international initiative to actually help the hospitality industry. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
So the inspiration for Amigo del Dia is exactly that. It's in the beginning of the lockdown, I actually donated my time to a few businesses just to help them get online. And what I saw really quickly, especially with the restaurants, was if they didn't have a database, if they didn't have a website that was working, and if they didn't have like really active in social media, they didn't have any way of talking to their community to tell them what they were doing. Mm-hmm. So I had a few restaurants ask me for help with that, and like, how can you help me just, integrate my site better, or do this, do that? Or they were starting to do takeaway, but they couldn't get it to work on their actual website, which made me start to think, I'd love to help them. They're not going to have any marketing money, but how can I help more than I can't do all of this for free. How can I help all of them, like in some way? And so it was born Amiga del Dia, which means friend of the day. And I basically pulled together all my mates and favors left, right, and center to create this platform, which what we intend to do is create various movements, campaigns that will help drive marketing and interest to the restaurants through a series of campaigns. And so meaning they don't have to spend any money on marketing, they just get involved in a particular campaign. So the first campaign is Let's Lunch. So in Spanish is vamos a comer, or quedamos a comer. But Let's Lunch is a really simple concept to between the 20th and the 30th of July. It's all about getting back together with your friends, reconnecting with your friends who, you haven't seen, and getting back out and supporting local restaurants. And you go out and you have lunch with a Menu del Dia. So Menu del Dia is a fixed price menu.
Yeah, I was going to say, just for our international followers, a lot of people, we're so accustomed to the Menu del Dia because we live here. But for many people, they wouldn't understand what that means. And that you've
lunch special. It's exactly the same. It's a fixed price lunch menu, a lunch special that, a lot of restaurants do offer. And it allows restaurants to, so why we hooked it on Menu del Dia was, years ago I researched Menu del Dia. So I was like, why doesn't anyone else do this? Why isn't this around the world? And it was actually introduced in 1965 by the Spanish government to stimulate the economy. And they made it a legislation that all restaurants had to offer it. It's no longer part of, restaurants don't have to offer it anymore. But the message they gave the public was now, because it was 1935. So it was the time just after the Civil War. So it was great poverty, but they went, all restaurants have to offer this. So every person, regardless of your socio-economic background, can afford a 3-course meal.
I have to admit, every time I have one, I feel like literally every time I have one, so that we're talking thousands of times, I feel like I've got a bargain.
Yeah. But for restaurants, so the thing is, it's mental, huh? Because it might not be more food, but for restaurants, what I researched before we launched this particular campaign, Let's Lunch, was I talked to restaurants in Australia, in the UK, in America, and also in Dubai, and was like, would this work for you? Is this something that, you know, you would even do? And they all said, you know what, it's a no-brainer to be able to manage our inventory, to make the menu smaller. And they also liked the idea that they could just do it as a pop-up for takeaway for a couple of days a week. They don't have to offer it every day during the campaign. It's a way in which them to go, we're doing this, and maybe they're only doing it Thursday and Friday, and they can then connect with their clients again, and people can rediscover them to go, what are you doing? And sign up to our newsletter or follow us on Facebook or Instagram so we can tell you what we're doing.
It's an amazing idea. And so it's going to be from the 20th of July to the 30th. This is first initiative.
Yeah, and the dates are because the 20th of July is the National Day of Friendship. From the 70s, it's been celebrated in Argentina and Uruguay and Brazil now as well. And the 30th of July is the International Day of Friendship by the UN. So we were like, okay, a lot of restaurants aren't going to be open yet, but we want to help the ones that are. And so the goal now is, and it's all completely free. Like we are doing this because we can. We're digital marketers, and our industry is being affected by it. Like my clients are affected. If the restaurants can't open, my clients aren't going to continue because they're wine and spirit and food.
Yeah.
So it's all the ecosystem, and this is a really small amount that we can give back. But what the challenge we've got right now is getting the word out there, getting it to the masses, and we're relying on volunteers.
How can we help you get it out there?
Doing what you're doing right now is...
And how can our people help you that are on the program? What do they have to do?
Yeah.
They can onboard restaurants, tell them about it, get in touch with us. Like you can email, like the website is amigodeldia.org. The contact and everything is on there. Like have a look at the website. The first 15 restaurants are now up. So already in a week we've had 15 restaurants, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot when we've just started and don't have a cent.
Yeah.
So we're relying on, if anyone wants to be an ambassador in their city, in their country, all we ask is that you onboard 10 restaurants, meaning we give you the tools, you tell them how to get involved, they register on the website, yasta. So
it's perfect.
So that's how we're building the awareness, the momentum. If anyone's in PR, public relations or publicity, and can help us out with just distributing the newsletter distributing the press release to their network, that's also what we're asking for. It's like little tiny bits of help where normally you'd have a big, huge marketing budget do it. We're relying on, and this won't be the last. This is the first one. We've built this platform to last. So we're already talking about doing like the aperitivo hour in the winter.
That sounds like fun.
That
sounds like fun. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. I think it's amazing, and I congratulate you. I know how much you work and what an amazing practitioner you are and consultant you are. We're a testament to that because you've helped us to actually completely digitize our business.
Helps when you embrace it. I mean, you guys really embraced it, and look,
it's been an amazing thing for us. And so if people want to get in touch with you, they want to, we'll put your details up as well. But what we'll do is we'll put it up on our network and we'll get it out there, and let's support you. Let's get this happening. And then maybe we can have you back after the first menu or the Amigos del Dia, and you can tell us how it went. And
let's lunch. Just say let's lunch. I mean, will you be my Amigo del Dia? Come on, let's lunch. You be my friend of the day. It's as simple as that. Maybe because we've said Amigo del Dia, we've confused people. They think it's only Spanish, but that's the essence of what we're doing.
I think it's good to get it out there. And Spain seems to somehow get left off of everything. So I don't know why. I know even with the reporting about what's been happening around the world, they talk about France and they talk about England, but they never talk about Spain. And I know how much we've been, we all know how much we've been challenged by what's just happened for this country. So we need to support each other as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's get it out there and let's make this a success.
Sí. Bueno, thank you.
We'll
Thank
see
you,
you soon. Bye.
Oh.